Welcome to the Stay Spicy podcast, where we have honest, fun, and spicy conversations about being your authentic self. Here we are, season 3 of the Stay Spicy podcast.
Woohoo!
Can't believe it's been 3 seasons. That's wild.
I know.
Since we birthed this in my kitchen over many bottles of Prosecco.
And now
it's become
we've lived many lives.
3 seasons with lots of swear words. Lots of amazing guests. In case you missed it, seasons 1 and 2 of the Stay Spicy podcast focused on how to build your brand and leadership. Some of my favorite episodes were from last season, I think. The boss holes, which inspired my new mug, I have a no boss holes policy, and many more. And this season, we're talking about entrepreneurship. Really excited about this one. Both Sherry and I are entrepreneurs, so we've got some things to say about that. But we also are going to have some amazing guests on. So it's going to be about owning businesses, running businesses, fixing businesses, basically that whole business boss life.
Yeah, exactly. And we're not just shooting the shit here. We have some stats behind entrepreneurship.
Always.
That we need to share today. So
Sherry loves her stats.
I do. I got to bring the evidence. I got to bring receipts when I come on.
I just say things.
So only about 7 to 8% of the global working population are entrepreneurs. But in Canada and the US, it's 19%. So there's a lot of us out there who are starting, running, and, doing their thing with the business. Mm-hmm. That's an all-time high, and it's continuing to rise. Entrepreneurial aspirations hit an 8-year high in Canada, and 59% of Canadians say they aspire to own a business. So I'm hoping they're hearing us today.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's
8-year high.
I think some of the other things that talk to it is, the side hustle is becoming, and this is what happened to me, the side hustle is becoming like a regular thing for a lot of young folks, particularly millennials. Mm-hmm. 28% of Canadians and 39% of Americans report having a side hustle. And I think that's like the gateway drug to starting a business.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, I think, start with a passion. They've always had an entrepreneurial mindset, which I'll talk about later. But they take that experience and those connections, and they start building things small. Mm-hmm. That eventually, they get that big contract, they get the big opportunity, and then they step out into the world and start their own business. And I think I'm seeing that more and more. The stats clearly say that even 24% of baby boomers indicated.
What kind of a side hustle does a boomer have, you think? No offense, boomers.
Selling cheap houses for lots of money. I don't know. Could be a number of things, and retirees like my dad, for example, who's also an electrician. He can do contracting, mm-hmm. And pick your hours, pick your days. So
yeah,
entrepreneurs are not this cut and dry thing like you see on Dragon's Den anymore, I guess, right?
Yeah.
It's not just the idea that sails you through. It's the stats are showing that it's like people from all walks of life, people with full-time jobs, people who are moms, mm-hmm. people who may or may not like their job. They're looking to build something small so they can eventually go out and do that full time. So this season, we're going to talk about those different facets of entrepreneurship. So that could be your fractionals, your side hustles. Also going to talk about how you get started, right? Mm-hmm. Like, where do you start? How do you come up with a plan for yourself? But also how to define the success on your own terms. So that's something we talk about a lot on the Stay Spicy podcast. Also, the F word, fear of failure.
Oh, that one.
Yes. Not the other F word.
I assumed you meant fuck because it's my favorite word. Sorry,
Which
Mom.
I'm sure you'll hear throughout the podcast. I'm sorry to Lynette's mom.
100%. Yeah. Sorry, Mom. Sorry, not sorry. But yeah, I mean, as you're talking about, like, we're going to talk about entrepreneurship, but I think mainly we're going to talk about how entrepreneurship doesn't look the way it used to.
Exactly.
And that is the point. Owning a business doesn't necessarily have to mean the things that we thought it had to mean before. And the way other people define success is not necessarily how entrepreneurs define success for themselves. You don't even have to have, I think it evoked this image of like a storefront, right? And your business
100%.
Cards
Yep.
and all the things. And like, if you didn't have all these things, then you couldn't call yourself an entrepreneur. Well, I guess that's the first myth. We're not even at myths yet, but that's bullshit, right? And totally. I think what you talked about, like people who are starting up like fractionals, side hustles, all these things are proving that entrepreneurship can look however you want it to look. And a lot of people, and we're also going to talk about these trends about why people are shifting into entrepreneurship. I think part of it is this desire. There's like the positive pull, but there's also the negative push of like not loving the workforce anymore.
Right. That's what we talk about in the
a lot of really shitty leaders out there. And people are like, fuck this noise. Refer to our last season about leadership. And so I think this is part of the effect of that, of people just being like, I am so sick of this shitty leader and this shitty workplace and all the things. And it's not because women are ruining work, New York Times. It's the systems, right? And so a lot of people, particularly women, men too, are just like, you know what? I'm going to start my own thing. Maybe they dip their toe in as a side hustle until they feel confident that they can make the shift entirely. But it's just people are searching for that more.
And this sort of grand exodus, right? The high percentages of people starting these businesses, they can't all be for the same reason.
No.
So like you said, everyone's got their own path. Everyone's got their own way that they go about it. And each of our guests this season will be a unique example of that. Yeah. It will be a unique example of someone who either faced a challenge in their life. They prove that you don't need a business degree or an MBA to run a business. They have ran successful businesses on their own using their Rolodex and their experience and their, School of Hard Knocks stuff.
Rolodex, there's a millennial term.
Yeah.
I got called out for that one the other day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, by a Gen Z. I was just like, you're obviously a millennial. You use the term Rolodex. I was like, whatever. It still means something.
I actually have never owned one.
No.
But I still call it that.
Early in my career, when I was like working in like customer service and law firms and stuff, they actually like had legit Rolodexes with business cards and things. Even when I was working in politics. But yeah, I myself did not have one.
I don't even get business cards anymore hardly. It's like, just add me to LinkedIn. Then we like sit by each other and like Google each other. And,
I don't
or
do
we
business
search
cards.
each other on LinkedIn and add each other at the event. And it's like, okay, nice meeting you. And then we have all their information. It's all good.
Yep, exactly. Like just everything. Yeah. So you talked about the kinds of guests that we're going to be speaking with. And we made a decision that this season, obviously we're talking to entrepreneurs, but we're going to talk to women entrepreneurs specifically. Because for lots of reasons, there are more and more women opting into entrepreneurship, like we talked about.
Right.
Opting out of the traditional workforce. We talked last season about how for every 2 women promoted to a director position, 1 leaves.
Correct.
So there's lots of women leaving leadership positions and lots of women starting their own businesses. And so we want to tap into that. The other thing too is women entrepreneurs also tend to do things differently. Inherently, whether it's a fuck you to the system or just it's the way we do things or it's the only way we can figure out how to make this work, we do it differently. And that's really what the Stay Spicy podcast is all about, is highlighting how people are authentic, stay true to themselves, fuck some shit up, do things differently.
Right.
So that's one of the other reasons. The other thing too is we want to talk to women entrepreneurs because women entrepreneurs do face very unique challenges, opportunities, and obstacles. And so I think that can be interesting and informative for our listeners and just worth digging into as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, with all of the entrepreneurs, I think in Alberta where we live, we have a very high percentage of female entrepreneurs, the highest in Canada.
Yeah.
And so, with that, they are going to be bringing all those unique perspectives. They're going to be changing the way business is. So,
with any luck.
Yeah. We need to be watching out for that and embracing that. It's happening. It's a wave. There's no choice, right? Women are taking over some of those spaces, but also we need to be aware of the pushback, like you said. That women are used to hearing pushback. So this great breakup where they're just leaving corporate Canada because they don't feel like they have a space.
We just got tired of ruining the workforce, so we're going to ruin entrepreneurship for you now.
Exactly. Now we're on the way to ruin the one thing.
I'm going to beat that thing to
that. Oh, you're not the only one talking about it. No, that's serious stuff.
Seriously, I could do a whole episode ranting about that bullshit.
But it's also an example of the attitudes we get everywhere we freaking go. And so it doesn't really matter.
Why we need to actually speak up for ourselves, right?
100%.
Because if we don't, then we end up with dumbass articles like that and other things where everybody has their own thoughts about so it's funny, speaking of which, articles. So I have done a lot of work with Alberta Women Entrepreneurs, the association, and I was in for like a brief stint as interim CEO, and we were doing some like office cleaning, and we were flipping through these old books and boxes of like a scrapbook, basically, we found where the people had clipped out articles. So this Alberta Women Entrepreneurs is 30 years old.
Right.
That's a long time to have an association supporting women entrepreneurs in Alberta. And so they've been basically saving newspaper clippings. Well, obviously not anymore, because who reads a real newspaper anymore, but newspaper clippings from the get-go, like from the 90s. And we found this new newspaper clipping that had this headline that said, "Women can succeed in business, Chamber told." Just wow. So,
In case you didn't know.
yeah. Oh my God, we can do it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the point though, right? Is like, okay, this is not a time, I could argue never is the time, but this is not a time for us to be silent. We need to speak up. We need to talk about different ways of doing things and different ideas for business, how we work together. We're going to have some great guests on the podcast that talk about bringing that the heart is the humanity is the heart of business. And we're told that's not how business is done. We're going to have guests on that have created collaborative women's entrepreneur groups, which is a whole different idea where women entrepreneurs in the same industry are like working together and collaborating rather than competing with each other. So just thinking about everything in a completely different way. Even like we said, the use of fractionals, where it's like you don't have to have, a full-time person or a whole bunch of full-time staff for everything. And you also don't have to have a regular job. You can be your own boss and be a fractional executive or whatever you want in other workplaces. So it's all about thinking differently, being different, and following what's right for you.
And not asking for permission, because, we're already at the table, right? We've been running high percentages of businesses for a very long time. We have ideas. We've done the work. So it's not even about, hey, recognize this. It's going to be a lot about, here are the success stories. Here's what it took to get to that point. And I think we do start out with myths. There's so much being thrown at us, so much junk. And, some of our guests will be talking about this. And I think, as Lynette and I, as we mentioned, we're both entrepreneurs. And let's talk a little bit about that and how that was part of the backstory. So for me personally, I worked in government for 15 years. I started a communications business. And I think for me, I had an idea of what starting a business was supposed to be. It was supposed to be, dress a certain way, look a certain way. And all of that sort of the image and the perfectionism and all that was what I found actually dissuaded me from moving forward. So I started a business small. So I started building relationships, built a side hustle, took the time to, build a little roster of clients to do the work, and then decided to go launch full time. That was unorthodox at the time. People were like, well, you just have to quit and go to your business. I'm not of the opinion that you need to just completely jump off a cliff to start a business. And so I learned personally that a lot of the myths we're going to talk about today are indeed myths, and that's why we're going to talk about them. But I learned that in order to be successful at business, you really need to embrace who you are. We talk about it on season 1 of the podcast about the idea of personal brand and that journey. One of the big things I learned in business is that people do business with people. You have to embrace who you are. You have to know who you are. You have to bring your authentic brand forward. It's not just about selling a product. It's not just about technology. It's not just about skills. So that's a little bit about my journey. I'm really results-based. I like to lead with heart. So a lot of the things I've said and done over the years has really flown in the face of the traditional idea of starting business. So
yeah,
that's my bit of my journey right now.
Well, and I think, what came out of me that for me is like when we talk to a lot of people who own businesses, like we're getting away necessarily from just people who work for a business, but somebody who owns their own business, they believe that their business is their brand. Right. And it's actually the other way around. Your brand is your business. And I think that's a big thing that I would really love to draw out through this season. Like, not that we're going to go back into talking about branding, but exactly what you said of be solid in who you are, and regardless of what you sell or what you do for your business, that is going to be what draws people to your business. Mm-hmm. And that's what we work with a lot of people on too, right? Is figuring that out, that being the core of everything. Mm-hmm. And also the flip side of that is being okay with not everybody wanting that. Like, it's okay for you and your business not to be for everyone. That just trust that there are people out there that are going to align with who you are and what you are offering. And mm-hmm. they will find you and you'll find them.
So for you, Lynette, what was your aha moment where you said, hey, you know what? I can do this. I'm going to try it. I'm going to go out and do it. Your entrepreneurship awakening, I guess we'll call it.
I think that was a core of like what drove me to do it, that drive for authenticity and freedom. So I didn't side hustle it. Although I didn't necessarily jump off a cliff. I was sort of like pushed off a cliff, I guess.
It happens.
I mean, I'd worked for a long time in various industries and, gotten to an executive level role. And I just felt like it was like Groundhog Day, or, I just kept repeating the same things over and over again, where I would come in, there would be, some leader who didn't know what they were doing or who was like a total boss hole. I would say to myself, it's okay. I will like try to fix it or work around it, or I'll be the buffer, or I'll do the things. And I would be successful in spite of all of that. But then what I realized at the end of it was like, all I served to do was make assholes look good. And there was like a wake of carnage, not from me, but just that. And then when I would leave that role, either of my own volition or someone else's decision, then again, it would revert back, because they would inevitably just do what they wanted to do. And it would become a revolving door of people, right? Everybody's disposable and all of that. And so after leaving my last job, I decided not to search for another job and just to like take a moment, take stock of who I was, what I needed, what was important to me, and also take stock of my career and think about like, okay, what am I here to do? What should I be doing with my talent and my time? And I decided it wasn't to make assholes look good. So, in Stay Spicy, the podcast had started already before I even had left my job. But then, we evolved Stay Spicy, but I also started my own business that was focused on not trying to change everyone and change everything, but to basically support the leaders that did want to change systems and did want to change how things were done, and that were open to new ideas. And that was scary as shit too, because it was like, I didn't entirely know what I wanted this to be and what I was essentially going to offer, but I was clear on who I would and wouldn't work with. And I allowed that to be my guide of what was really important to me was freedom, flexibility, autonomy, fun, spiciness, and like that I would stay true to that. And it's been, I guess, 2-3 years. I don't even know. I've lost track of time, but it's been a wild ride, and it's still a wild ride. Like, we'll talk about that throughout the season, that it's not easy and it is scary. And you go through these periods of time where you think, oh, things are great. And I've got money coming in and I'm busy. And then you go through periods of time where you are terrified and you're like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. Right. But that's why knowing your why is so important, because that's what keeps you going.
100%. And that's not a myth. Like, that's something that we need to embrace as entrepreneurs, as budding entrepreneurs, but also like multi-generational workforces everywhere, right? We're just diversity is going to be a good thing. It's going to be a good thing, and we can learn from each other and really take that to the next level. So with that, we're going to talk about myths. So, we always do. We like to bust some myths. Today, we're going to bust entrepreneurial myths. And a lot of these are from our own perspectives. If you want to connect with us on social media, like I'd love to hear some of the myths you've come across on your entrepreneurship journey, because there were quite a few as we were developing this list. And some of them are individual to myself or individual to Lynette. So everyone has their own unique story. So Lynette, the first one you mentioned was revenue growth equals success. So people will look at that and say, what? Like,
That's
business
a myth?
is all about money. How is this a myth? So
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you explain that one.
Make money. I mean, as much as I love the song, that is not my motto. I also too, I just want to acknowledge that, like, I don't know about you, Sherry, but I didn't come from an entrepreneur family like
Right.
that. They maybe ran businesses, but they didn't own their own businesses. Although my father did co-run a business, but it wasn't like necessarily a thing that was instilled in me about an entrepreneurial path.
Right.
And I had never done it before. So I think what we do is we like draw upon what we think we know about entrepreneurship or what other people tell us. And then we also get told to go and ask for advice from quote unquote successful people.
Right.
So a lot of the myths I think come from that, from things that I just thought I knew because I learned them from movies or society or whatever, or from people that I sought out that were arguably successful. And I was like, tell me what I should know, which I think is was a mistake. But this revenue growth equals success, I think this goes for all business. Now, don't get me wrong. You obviously need to have money coming in the door for obvious reasons. But it's more about that success is defined by revenue growth, right? Like that you are only considered a successful business if you have lots of money or you have a certain amount of growth. Because to me, what matters is also how you get there. And if you focus on revenue at all costs, I actually think that is the biggest mistake. And
100%.
I mean, I worked for that guy. I worked for a lot of those people, but one in particular, and that I mentioned, I kind of alluded to that earlier, that I left that because I don't believe in treating people as headcount and cogs in a wheel, disposable. Like this person, for example, came in and they had this playbook right out of Glengarry Glen Ross, which is like this movie in the early 1990s about a bunch of real estate bros. But it's like you come in, you yell at people, you threaten to fire them, and it's like all that matters is the bottom line, and whoever doesn't meet the top, like whoever aren't the top salespeople, you're out. That kind of idea, and whether you're like you have salespeople or regardless of how that comes to pass, that whole mentality I think is so flawed, but it is so connected to what people think about successful business. It's like if you're not. And even Dragon's Den kind of perpetuates that, right? Like all
Absolutely.
they ask about, and I mean, that's the model of the show, but all they think about is the prospect for how much money you can make. And I just don't think that that's why a lot of people get into business. And so there's actually, I think it's called Barry Waymiller in the US. It's a manufacturing company. And they took an intentionally different approach where they talk about explicitly heart count, not head count. And that is why they're ultra successful. So I think that revenue at all costs does not equal success, but also your definition of success doesn't have to be making loads of money. There's nothing wrong with making loads of money. Don't get me wrong, would love it, but that's not, and I said to a client the other day, money is not my primary driver.
Yeah.
It is not enough for me. And because, there's lots of other paths for that. I wouldn't necessarily choose entrepreneurship if money is my primary driver.
Yeah.
And so I think starting a business is really personal. Your reasons for doing it are very personal. And so you should be, not to shit on everyone, but you should be defining success on your own terms and based on your own why.
Yeah.
And so if you say, my whole goal, like for me, is to be independent and have freedom. I took stock the other day, and it's a good reminder for me today of like, I have that, so I am successful in my own view.
Yeah. And I think related to the revenue piece for me in my field, I work in communications, public relations, a lot of writing, social media services, that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of systems in that, and there's a lot of feeding the machine and selling as much as you can. And I think my mantra in business, when I started kind of working with various advertising agencies and seeing, national campaigns and stuff, and just seeing clients getting hosed because they had to feed an agency machine. And this is not now necessarily, and it's not all agencies, but that sort of agency machine where, we got to sell as many tactics as possible so that we can rack up enough money to fuel this giant agency that we're running. And I just saw like I had a moral issue with that. Mm-hmm. So for me, like my big thing, and I say I'm the worst social media consultant because I do spend about half my time convincing people that they don't need social media for certain aspects of their communication strategy.
Or are you the best because of it?
Well, it depends on who you're talking to.
Yeah.
But for me, it's about building the client relationship for the long term. So if they can call me and get an honest answer, and maybe that's the journalism background, but if they can call me and get an honest answer, then I'll continue to get calls and continue to get contracts. I've built way better relationships, and I've made more money just giving people what they want, and also just sort of getting them results that they want and not focusing on the sales aspect of it. So that's my niche. And the same as you, like the revenue part is secondary, but like that like collaborative approach, making a client's problems my own, solving those problems, no matter how small or big they are, but also acknowledging their constraints and what they need is a big part of my passion for the business, is really solving those problems and telling those stories. Mm-hmm. So that also kind of leads me into the myth that, you need a business degree to own and run a business. You need to do things the way they're supposed to be done. And no, that's not the case. In fact, less than 40% of small business owners even have post-secondary at all. Mm-hmm. So to say that we need to do things a certain way and we need to kind of run that path is not it. And everyone has a different path and a different perspective and a different desire. A lot of folks like myself, who has a young child, I wanted the freedom as well. Not necessarily freedom from the hard work, but the freedom to decide what my day looks like, that kind of thing. So I don't think that that's something that you'll find in a business book. At least not one from the 1980s that, I'd be fired probably. But I remember women saying things like, I would never answer a phone call or take a meeting when I was dropping my kids off at daycare. Or I would never, acknowledge that, if my child was sick, it was like a big deal and that kind of thing. And I think that like that's changing. And if the corporate, hive mind can't handle that, then women will go and do what they can and what they want to do to get their freedom. And they're becoming more successful at it.
Yeah. It's so funny too. I want to dig into that myth because I think if you ask a lot of people, they would say, absolutely, you need to have some kind of business degree to run or own a business, right? Or I can't, they'll tell themselves that as an excuse why they can't do it, right? I can't start a business. I don't have a business degree. But then when you see that like 40% of business owners don't have a business degree, don't even have post-secondary degrees. And I also do find like that could be because they're really smart people. They just didn't, for whatever reason, have the opportunity to go to post-secondary. And even our workplaces have these barriers set in, right? Oh, you have to have a post-secondary degree to get this like basic job. And it is such bullshit. Don't get me wrong. I'm not against post-secondary education, but I don't think that a post-secondary education equals somebody who knows what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And then on the flip side, just because you don't have a degree doesn't mean you don't know what you're doing.
No, 100%.
We've like equated this somehow with some level of quality or skill. I've seen a lot of people with MBAs who have lots of knowledge of theories, business theories and practices. They have no idea how to put it into practice. They're terrible at executing. And I've seen people on the other side of it that don't have MBAs who are brilliant business minds. And if they were to go back and get an MBA, like they've already learned it by doing, and it might actually like rewire their thinking in a detrimental way. So I think it's not don't get it, but whatever's right for you. But I think a lot of us, I felt that way when I was in my executive role, and I've had those thoughts even since starting my business of like, oh, I got to go get business courses and a business degree and all the things. And you don't.
I had a meeting a couple weeks ago. We were organizing a tour for the students at NATE of the new Provincial Operations Center. So this is the emergency management center if there's floods or crisis or whatever. So one of the most amazing things about it is everybody taking the program came from different backgrounds. Nobody fell into that program. Everyone had their life experience that brought them to that program. So you had me, who was, I'd worked in communications, emergency communications. You had Erica. Hi, Erica. Love her. She was, she started in political science and then got really interested in the politics of all of it and the interesting parts of all of that. A lot of these people are consultants. They run their own businesses now. So she now helps run the Provincial Operations Center. And we had Josh Moran. He has been in the Armed Forces for years and now is amazing at teaching emergency preparedness, logistics, all that stuff. So every time we go to meet up or we go to talk about, fields even, right? Fields of business, fields of practice, different businesses people run, different consultancies people run. I've never met one person who came from the same background. Like it's always different folks bringing their own styles, their own experiences, and their own education. So that's a huge piece of it.
Education is a part, but it
Right?
doesn't have to be it. And like, I think it's like, what are your abilities and what have you done? That's to me what matters. I know people who have PhDs who think they can speak authoritatively on every topic. It's like, oh, your PhD is in one topic. It doesn't mean you're an expert in everything. But we as a society have put certain things on a pedestal. And now that I think has made it a deterrent for people to go for things.
It has, and you're starting to see the tech industry move away from it.
Yeah.
They're not interested. They're really hard skills. They're starting to move away from some of that. So I suspect, other industries are next.
Yeah.
In terms of having to have a master's degree to do specific tasks, which I think is wrong. Speaking of wrong or right, Lynette, your myth, the customer is always right. Is this a myth? You're confusing everyone today.
I know. This is like that whole old adage, the customer is always right. I don't know if anybody has actually stopped to say absolutely fucking not. But I'm here to say that today. The customer is not always right. So I go back and I have like there's lots of different types of customer, right? So when I started my working career, when I was a teenager, I worked in the service industry. So I worked in like coffee shops. I worked as a receptionist at car dealerships. I got to tell you, the people that call in at car dealerships, those are some mad, angry, like mean people because they're yelling at some 15-year-old girl because their car broke down. Well, I didn't break it and I can't fix it. So you don't be rude to them, but
shout out to everyone answering phones at the car dealership.
Yes. Shout out to anyone answering phones in a customer service capacity ever, or in the service industry, because honestly, like how people get treated is ridiculous. And you get told that though, when you're I didn't necessarily do serving or bartending, but it is a thing that you get told in retail as well. Like the customer's always right. Do whatever it takes. And then, so I want to pull up, I came across on Instagram this post by a local company called Paper Doll. They're a boutique, like a clothing boutique.
Nice.
And so she posted it publicly, so I feel like I can read this out. But I was just like, yes. Not only is the customer not always right, but she didn't say the customer's name, but she like posted this story on her Instagram So she says, I wanted to share this story with you guys today because sometimes being a small business owner is so difficult, especially since COVID. Today, I had a customer bring in a pair of pants she bought in the beginning of July and wanted a full store credit. I explained to her that while I do make exceptions, sometimes 5 months is just too long. The pants were very summery pant that we no longer have in store, so I would have to sell them at clearance price. Aside from this, while arguing with me how I'm the only business she's heard of that won't do this, she let it slip that she only wore the pants once. I offered to give her a store credit for what the sale price would be, and she got angry and started taking photos and videos of the store. So I'm bracing myself for the bad review, which can be so damaging to a small business. In a small business, every dollar counts. I know big businesses like Costco can afford to swallow costs, but we cannot. I share this because I hope my customers know we always try to go above and beyond and so often make exceptions, but we cannot always. I hope you take some time to leave those small businesses you love a good review or a share of their posts, and also take some of the bad reviews you see with a grain of salt. It is often used as a tool to get the business to give in to demands. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, this is like a perfect example of how that customer is not fucking right.
No.
And then what an asshole.
Store owner, please call me. I will help you.
So I will help you.
For free.
And it's just like, also what a brilliant move on her part, just to be like super vulnerable. But we are basically told that no matter what somebody comes at you with, they hold the power because they have the money and you need the money. I think this goes back to my first myth, but it also goes back to this notion of authenticity, and not everybody is going to be your customer, because
100%.
and if you live your values.
That's a bit controversial though.
Oh, for sure. I get it. Like not everybody's going to agree with this, but I don't give a shit. So, because it's my podcast and I can say what I want. The other thing too is like in the context of when I worked in another organization, I actually fired customers or clients and on behalf of my staff.
Yes.
Like, because I had certain deal breakers, and it was, if you cannot treat my team with respect, you do not get to be a client of ours. And that actually was huge, because it's not even just that, but it's like our reputation was also on the line. Mm-hmm. So if I go the extra mile of introducing you to stakeholders or linking my brand to yours through the services that we provide, then you're an asshole. Well, then people equate that with me.
100%. And you become the boss that just takes all of their unrealistic demands, takes all of their drama, all their nonsense, and then you throw it down on your staff, or you throw it down on the people, or you keep it internalized in yourself because you're driven by the money. Mm-hmm. And that's not a good thing either, because in my experience, they're never happy.
And who wants to work for you if they have to put up with that shit from the clients?
Yeah, they're not gonna help you anyway, right?
So, I mean, and from a consulting perspective, that's kind of the same idea, right? Like I try to get to a point where I don't ever have to fire a client,
right,
but I'm willing to if I have to. But if you start from the premise of here are my values and here's where I stand, and you can either say, okay, this isn't going to work out because I don't think we're a fit, or they opt out of you, that's a gift, right? Because then that wasn't going to be a fit for you. So I don't think the customer is always right. I think what's right for you,
even in matters of taste, for those purists who are going to say, well, the sentences, they're always right in matters of taste. No, they're not.
Taste is relative. But yeah, so I don't believe the customer is always right. I think that it's about finding the right customer for you.
We don't talk about firing clients enough and firing customers enough. And that can also wreak havoc on your business.
Yep.
So that's like another thing that's like really important. And advice I would give to people is, if you are strong in your belief of who you are and you know what you want to get out of it, you are comfortable not working or firing the wrong people. And I love when you said every customer is not for you, because that's like, again, this whole pressure to just be everything to everybody because it's the business, it's sales, it's no, I don't think so. Not for everybody.
Well, and it's a similar concept to firing bad staff people, right? People always talk about, oh, well, I can't, because the cost of firing them. But what about the cost of not doing it? The people who leave because of them, or the customers that don't want to deal with them. So it's the same principle when it comes to customers. It's like, oh, I don't want to give away this business. But if you insist on having shit customers, then you're not going to be able to keep staff or other customers. If you think, regardless of what business you're in. But, I think about going into an amazing restaurant that I love. And there's this jerk that goes there and sits at the bar and gets drunk and harasses people. And I'm like, I bet he spends a buttload of money at your restaurant. But he's going to deter a lot of people from coming back.
Yeah.
So he may be a repeat customer, but he's losing you a lot of repeat customers.
100%. And go talk to your hairdresser. Say, hey, do you fire clients? They do it all the time. They're ruthless hairdressers because they are going to spend 3 hours in a chair and you're going to be someone they like. So if you've had the same hairdresser for 10 years, you are amazing. And
you're a good customer.
You're amazing.
Way to be good customer.
Yeah, good customer.
So this next one, I got told this when I started my business. And I feel like for me, it turned out to be a myth. A lot of people get told it, but I'm really curious what you think about this, Sherry, that you have to focus on one thing.
Yes. So we do brand discovery services for our clients as part of the Stay Spicy business. One of the big things we find we run into with clients is that they want to just like have a sentence that sums up their whole life or their whole business, or they don't understand their business offerings. We worked with amazing people in finance who are also people leaders, who are also amazing writers. They're all those things. I think it's because we're looking at it from a uniquely technical perspective. So I want to start a business, I have to sell X. I want to start a business, I have to provide this service. Instead of, like you said, focusing on the personal brand, which becomes the business brand. And there is definitely a thread that holds everything together. So for me, for example, it's the fact that I am dedicated to getting results for my clients and telling stories that have heart. So really helping businesses and companies tell those stories. If you looked at my resume, you would see, and you didn't know that about me because I wasn't clear on that, you would see someone that was all over the place. So you'd see, okay, well, this person worked for government. They worked in the energy sector. This person runs a podcast. She does branding exercises for folks. Oh, wait, she's over here now, and she's really interested in digital communications and advocating for the tech industries. Like, there's just so many things that I have my hands in, but ultimately my work is about bringing people together and connecting them together. So I think personally, if you are an entrepreneur, you are a naturally curious, adventurous person. And that is whether you run your own business, you're thinking of starting your own business, or you are someone that works in a corporate environment. You can still have that entrepreneurial mindset. You are a person who looks for opportunities to experiment, right? So I would flip that and question somebody who does one thing. One thing well, that's all they want to do, and they don't want to do anything else. They don't want to try anything else. That to me is not the essence of entrepreneurial spirit. So for me, it's like you don't have to do one thing. You have to take the essence of who you are, the skills that you have, and branch out and try different things with those skills. Lynette, like you have worked in international business, you've worked in politics.
Oh yeah, I've got a total schizophrenic career.
Oh, 100%. Right?
And business right now. Like
100%.
But that's actually legitimately a thing that somebody told me. He was like, you got to focus on like one thing or like a small thing. And the comment was, you don't want to be a Chinese food menu of options. And I think though, the way you put it, on some level, he was right. Like, you don't want to just be like, I do all these things. It's very confusing. Right. So it's actually less about focusing on one thing. It's, I think, the myth bust part of it that I heard from you is focus on you and what you bring to the table, not what you are going to do.
And if you're focused on yourself, you're bringing out that creative energy. And honestly, idea generation is lead generation.
Yeah.
So the successful entrepreneurs I know who even in, small towns, running businesses, running grocery stores, restaurants, they're always moving. They're always trying. They're curious. They want to see what works. They want to see what sticks.
Yep.
That's actually the essence of sales, I think, is people who want to give people what they want, not make money. Make money, yes, but give people what they really want and that spark in their eye. I have my family in Newfoundland, they are serial entrepreneurs. They run everything and they just love the smile on someone's face when they are able to get them what they want in like an isolated community or something like that. So I think it's not about doing the same thing really well. If you are a millennial, you've been in that job interview where they've said, oh, well, you've switched jobs 3 times in the last 5 years. You know what? Yeah, you have.
Become an entrepreneur then.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. And if you are one of those people, I'll probably see you at a business event really soon.
Funny how I'm going like way off the rails here, but I just want to like pause on that because we've lamented that before, right? Where people are like, oh, you've jumped around a lot. You've had like 3 jobs in 4 years or whatever. Where we judge that, but we value people who are quote unquote serial entrepreneurs, like people who've started many businesses. We think that's great.
I know, so, but not in our house.
Yeah,
not in our backyard.
Yeah,
right.
It's very funny, but yeah. So, and you don't have to start multiple businesses. You can start multiple things within the same business, right? And so, yeah, I would be an example. I mean, you can decide whether or not you think I'm successful at it, but I basically went against that advice completely because if you look at all the things that I'm doing, the various clients that I have, all like people would not understand the thread that connects them all. And I guess the point is I'm the thread that connects them all. I don't need to be a one-trick pony.
No. All right. And with that, we have another myth.
Oh
gosh. Okay. You have to have it all figured out before you launch. And that is like what so many young people who can contact me.
Yeah.
I got to get this all together or I can't launch anything.
Yep. It has to be perfect.
Perfection is the killer.
Ooh. And I will admit, even though I acknowledge this is a myth, I am so guilty of this thinking and I'm still trying to break it. Like I felt that way. And I guess the other part of this that I think is a myth is that you have to quote unquote launch. Like there has to be some coming out party for your business or something.
Yeah.
And you obviously are the expert as the communications, digital communications person, but like, yeah, this notion that now that I think of it of like, well, you don't need to launch. Like if you want to, great. But you can just start doing things. I've had a lot of clients in that situation, waiting 3 months to launch and things like that. Yeah. And launch meaning like to go public, I guess.
Right.
So I was there where I'm like, before I would put up my website or like announce that I had a business, I agonized over every little detail and like, what did I want to offer and how did I want to position myself? And it's changed like a million times since then. And what looking back now realize is I didn't have to quote unquote launch at any point. If you want people to know, sure, you can send around a note being like, here's what I'm doing, but you can just start. And I'm still violating this to this day because there's a new project have been wanting to launch and I've been talking about it. And I've struggled to just start. And this is where like you and then also Miguel, who was on our podcast last season, are like my spirit guides with this because anytime I'm feeling that vibe, that energy, I like will call one of you up or voice note you and I'll get a voice note back that says, just fucking start. Yep. That is the simple advice. It doesn't matter how or what or who, just start. And so you do not have to have it all figured out. I would argue that you never have it figured out.
No.
That you figure it out by doing it and everything. And that the more you put out there, the more information you get back and the more you evolve it. And that, I guess this is another thing too, to this myth is like, it's okay to change.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't want to change your business name every other month, but like, it's okay to change how you position it. It's okay to change the language. It's okay to change what you offer.
Yep.
Quite frankly, most people are not paying attention. So.
Yeah. And and this is your story.
Yeah.
This is your life. And, you know, I'm a heavy metal fan. So I just think, you know, if people just didn't just start something, like if Black Sabbath didn't just pick up those instruments in Birmingham, England, and just start something, there'd be no heavy metal music.
Yep.
Like they just started something, you know, like just get up and start something. If it's a side gig, however you enter that space is up to you. But there's really no wrong way to enter it, I guess.
It's kind of like how this podcast started.
Yeah.
Right. We didn't overthink it.
No.
We put thought into it, obviously, but we
Of
did
course.
not wait for all the pieces to fall into place. We just started doing things. We were so passionate about it. We just started doing it, and we knew that it would just come together as we did it.
Yeah.
And it has evolved over the course of 3
100%.
years. Like here we are in a fancy schmancy studio
Yep.
and talking about entrepreneurship. And we started like very humbly,
We did.
but we started is the point.
Started something.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Even if it's small, start it.
And it was a good idea, but here's the next myth. And I'm so curious what you think about this. So we had a good idea and we made it into something. But your myth is that a good idea will carry you. So tell us about that. Why is that a myth?
Yeah. So I do a lot of consulting that involves like digital tools and video editing or content creation, that kind of stuff. And of course, that attracts a lot of young people who want to do the same thing. So I get asked all the time for coffee meetings or to pick the brain, you know, from young folks who want to leave school, who have amazing technical skills and editorial skills, and they want to get right into running their own business. They want to go right out of school, start consulting right away because they have the technical skills to do it. One of the things that I've learned, well, two of the things that I've learned is that people hire people, not skills. So yes, skills are important. They're a part of the business, but it's that relationship that matters. And two, a lot of the things that are going to make you successful in business have nothing to do with those day-to-day technical skills that you're providing, the technical service that you're providing. So this leads into, you know, this new trendy thing that AI is going to replace all these people. AI is not going to replace a leader with heart, right? AI is not going to replace persuasion, personal relationships, all of the things that you need to build and those connections you need to build in order to build a successful business and experience too, right?
I'm just laughing because when ChatGPT is like, that's a great question. I'm like, shut up and give me the answer.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want you to try to be human. I don't appreciate that.
Unfortunately, AI is getting a bit dumber because there's so much crap on the internet.
I know it's a great question. Don't need you to tell me.
How dare you?
How dare you patronize me, ChatGPT?
But yeah, it's the soft skills. It's the soft skills. Yeah. It's the individuality of you as a human being. And then it's the skills. So when I sit with folks, the first thing they want to know is, how do I get a business license? How'd you start? How quickly did you do your website? How much did it cost? Need to do all the steps.
Yeah.
Fill out the forms. And then I'm just going to be I'm like, are you going to be able to answer calls at 2 a.m.? Are you going to be able to are you going to have enough experience to solve a problem that hasn't been seen before that maybe you would have experienced in a corporate job that you'd worked at for 10 years? Mm-hmm. Do you have enough folks on your Rolodex, here I go again, your contact list on your phone that...
Own it. Say Rolodex.
Yeah.
I love it.
Rolodex that you can ask or touch base with if you're running into a problem. Like, have you built the foundation of it? Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, the foundation of it is not just the idea. It's not the technical skills. It's all the other soft skills, because as someone like me who does a lot of content creation and that kind of stuff, I often work with folks that need things done quickly. They trust me. They know that I can get them results, and they've seen other work that I've done, and they get referrals. So that really has not a lot. There's 20 people that do the exact same thing I do in this city, and I'm being like, it's probably more than that.
Yeah. So you all have the same idea, but
exactly,
you're differentiated based on who you are. On a slightly different angle to that. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't believe that just because you don't have experience in something doesn't mean you can't build a business around it. Mm. But there's this this company or aspiring company that's doing some fundraising. And they sent a deck around and I was asked to comment on it. And I'll just say like the idea is a manufacturing of a product that right now like used to be manufactured in Canada but isn't anymore.
Okay.
But the founders have no experience in manufacturing at all. And so, and I won't say like they're professional services type background. And so when you look at, if you have any experience in the industry, you look at their pitch, you're like, okay, well, there's holes here, here, and here. Like this doesn't make sense. So that's the other thing too, is like, it's a great idea, but you either have to be able to execute it or you have to prove to someone who's going to invest in you that you can. 100%. And if you can't, you have to bring people around you that can. So everybody's like, I have a great idea. Great. That doesn't mean you have a business. You actually, it does reinforce exactly what you were saying, just skills, in a different way thing. That it's like, you are the point, not the idea. And so if you don't have the skills or the knowledge, or you can't bring those around you, then an idea is just that. It's an idea.
Yeah. And skills are that too.
Yeah.
Right. If
everybody's got a great friggin' idea.
Yeah. If you blow deadlines, you don't get back to me, you don't engage with me, you don't feel like, you're solving my problem. Yeah. No.
I'll be better.
There's only room for one.
Yeah, there's only room for one Lynette in your life.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that is that's all the myths we have for now.
Right.
We will ask every one of our guests what their favorite entrepreneurship myth is, and as Sherry said, we really want to hear yours. If you're a business owner, you've ever owned a business, and you used to believe something, or someone told you something that you were like, that's bullshit. We want to hear what that is, because we want to bring more of these forward. We want to challenge these perceptions, and we want to hear from people who are doing it different. And so thank you for listening today. Please keep listening. This is episode 1. We've got a lot more to go. Season 3.
Stay Spicy Inc. Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. Love you. Have a great week. Stay spicy. Thanks for listening to the Stay Spicy podcast.
We love hearing from our listeners and want you to be part of our community. So connect with us on social media at Stay Spicy Inc.
And visit us online at stayspicy.ca.